I see 2 copies of this in the back.
That's right.
In the back.
That's right. That's right.
Great. There we are. That is topic du jour. We're so pleased you wrote it, and we're so pleased you take some time to speak with the Sage team about it. So in advance of the conversation, thank you.
No problem at all. It's a pleasure. I watched some of the interviews you had done, and you are providing a tremendous value to the audience that is following you. Wonderful.
I should maybe share with you, for what it's worth, the people who have been most interested to take this up. They don't actually look at it on YouTube. They tend to read it. They tend to read what comes out of these conversations as opposed to viewing it. But almost all of them are based in Southeast Asia.
Wow.
Vivek.
Okay. Yes.
And while we're based in Singapore, I think the majority of those are more like Indonesia, Malaysia, Vietnam, Thailand, Philippines.
Wow. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Although of course Singapore too, but they're just more populous places.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think another thing that's maybe worthy of note, because it may help you and I think about where to steer our conversation together, is almost all of them are in B2B professional services.
Oh, okay. Good to know.
So for whatever reason, we've really tended to do a lot of our work with consultants, especially niche consultants, so people with boutique and highly specialized consulting practices. Financial services like fund management, which is a topic you know really something about and live and breathe in. Law, and risk advisory. So that has tended to be the typical people that we work with. We're very blessed in that they're very smart, usually very pedigreed, very self-motivated. They read a lot themselves. And so they're always game to hear what someone else with experience and wisdom has to share.
Sure. No, this helps a lot. And you need to all learn from whatever source we can learn. So I'm happy that the audience you have is interested in learning.
I'll give you one sort of anecdote from our writing table, and maybe it can serve as a kickoff. But there's a phrase that's become very popular in the last 5-10 years, which is lived experience. And we've just been meditating on the idea of unlived experience, which is to say, when a writer takes the time and energy to put down their thoughts and work with an editor or edit themselves and really bring to the fore a full frame of ideas, you get the benefit of that experience without the cost of having to live through it. And absolutely. I think that your book fits into that really nicely. It's yet one more chance we have to have unlived experience.
Absolutely. One of the chapters, we will obviously start at the right place, but one of the chapters which says there are 4 more gods you need. And these gods, one of them is definitely book. I'll talk about the others when the time comes, but absolutely, you hit the nail on the head. Well,
we don't have to go chronologically. Let's just dive in, and let's dive in right there.
So it would be better to go chronological, but it's okay. Let me just address this point.
Okay.
So one of the chapters of the book is about having 4 more gods to help you. And one god is God. If you believe, you pray. But the 4 more gods that I am talking about is people who inspire you, people who are your role models, people who can mentor you, and books, podcasts like what we are doing right now. These 4 gods are there to help you tremendously. Unimaginable help can come from these 4 people or 4 institutions, however you want to call it. Most people miss this. And I want to emphasize it when the time comes again on this point, because especially smart people sometimes miss this, this help that is available to them.
Yes. Okay, well, if you like to go chronologically, let's absolutely do so. In aid of that, I just want to say a few things that you might be too humble to say for yourself. So if you'll bear with me, I just want to say a few words of
Sure.
a biographical introduction. You're a general partner at a VC called Your Nest. I think that's a pretty fascinating intersection. When you're in a VC, you're at an intersection of several roads, and so you see a lot, and we'll maybe call in on that. Particularly deep technology and product space, and right. You're not just making financial punts, but incubating and actively mentoring some startups as well. So we think about it as a sleeves rolled up posture you have with these businesses. You're also sitting on the board of several for-profit, nonprofit organizations with global footprints. And in the past, president, collaboration communication groups at Cisco, head of Dell R&D, MD at Ishoni Networks. This is the group purchased by Philips, and MD at Portal Software. This is the group acquired by Oracle. All of this in India. And prior to India, which also provided time I want to touch on because there's much to be said there, management positions in some no-name, nobody's ever heard of them organizations such as HP, where you have a couple of friends with surnames such as Hewlett and Packard, Fujitsu, and that obviously in the US, and founder at ATTI, also Avid in US, which was a PE acquisition. Multiple times accredited with a PhD from Queen's University. I'm a Canadian, Dr. Mansingh, by the way.
Oh wow! Okay.
With a brother who is also a Queen's grad, and the EMBA from Stanford, and a gold medalist from NIT Allahabad. There's more to say. That is the trimmed down and curt version. But maybe with that, can I just ask you to maybe bring people into a general sense of why this book was written, now understanding your background?
Perfect. Thank you for that elaborate introduction.
Yeah.
But the book is very close to my heart, and let me describe this to you. There's no book like this. Let me also make that claim very boldly. When I retired from HP, Kevin, I retired from Cisco a couple of years back, I said, what legacy do I want to leave as my innings comes to close? And I look back my career of 35, 40 years, and I said that the biggest contribution I have made to lots and lots of people is by mentoring them. And I have mentored people in India, in US, in China, in Taiwan, in Singapore, and so many places. And through my mentoring, I have been able to make a significant difference to them. So I said that could be an area that I need to focus on. Now, I am also beneficiary of my own mentors. I have had 10 plus mentors in my life who have contributed immensely to my career and life. And so my belief is that anyone can do bigger and better things with the help of mentor. It doesn't matter you are a high school student or you are a CEO, you are an athlete, whoever you are. A mentor can help you tremendously. And to prove the point, I have here this book that I like, $1 Million Coach. Wonderful book for your audience to read, where Bill is talking about mentoring these most successful CEOs of Silicon Valley, Yahoo founders, Google founders, and Apple founders, etc. If they can use help from a coach or a mentor, then where are you and I? So my point is, Everyone needs a mentor. Now, mentors are hard to find. Also, everyone who mentors, they share their experiences, they share their wisdom, they share their knowledge, but they may not know how mentoring is structured. It's an structured process. So that is why I said, okay, let me write a book that becomes a mentor. There's no book like that. That's why I said that. Book itself becomes a mentor at any stage of your life and helps you achieve what I call meaningful success. And I can elaborate on that a little more. So that is the genesis of the book. I have started a program called Mentor a Million. That is the goal I gave myself after I retired from Cisco. And how do you mentor a million people? Well, book was the best way. And after people have read the book, they can go to my website and ask questions, and they are all answered free of cost. In addition, before people start thinking that I'm selling the book, I want to tell people that all the profits of the book are being donated for eye care of the poor. So I'm not personally benefiting from it. My single goal is to impact 1 million lives by providing them a mentor that is generally hard to find.
Yeah.
That's the genesis of the book, Kevin. Now, briefly, you described my background, but a couple of things I'll cover which will help people understand the context that I'm coming from. So you mentioned, I have worked with David Packard, Bill Hewlett of HP, Michael Dell of Dell, John Chambers of Cisco, and Steve Jobs. Everyone knows. Actually, one of my proud position is a poster of iMac where Steve has written, Vivek and team couldn't have done without you, signed Steve Jobs. Actually, it is just behind, but that is, so I have had opportunity to learn from these phenomenal leaders and many, many more that you and I may not know. They are not household names. So all of that learning has gone into the book. Now, let me also tell you, a lot of self-improvement books actually are written by coaches and trainers. There is no harm in that. They can bring tremendous value. However, in this book, my approach is I have been there, done that, and I can share my experience with you and experience of all these phenomenal leaders who I have worked with. So that is how the genesis of the book comes into play. The book has become a bestseller, national bestseller in India already. And now the other editions are coming in other regional languages in India.
Oh, in India. So it's coming out in, Maharashtra and Gujarati and
that's right. It will be coming. The next one is Hindi, but the book is very global. An English version is available all over the world. The book is published by Penguin, and they have been a tremendous partners to take this message to literally millions of people.
Yeah. Well, okay, super. Mentorship. Let's take a moment, because one of the things we've learned in interviewing so many authors is that the words that they use matter. And you don't use the word specifically coaching, leading, managing, overseeing, guiding, but instead you've chosen this specific word. So can I ask you to just give us some maybe fence lines around that word, what it means and doesn't mean? Because I know that you've thought through that choice quite carefully.
Yeah, excellent question. So what do good mentors do? If I have to describe the book or mentor's role, I can describe it in one line, which is define who you aspire to be and become that person. A mentor helps a mentee do that. Define who he or she aspires to be, and then help them become that person. Now, only mentoring goes through this definition of aspiration by a mentee. It's a big part of mentoring, because unless people are aspiring for big things, the passion doesn't come, the excitement doesn't come, they don't jump into wholeheartedly and so on. So the first part of mentoring is to know the mentee and make sure they are aspiring to do something big. And then second part is to make them the best version of themselves so that they have potential to reach there. That to me is mentoring, right?
Okay.
The difference between coaching and mentoring in my mind, and they are, as you know, the words are used interchangeably, but in my mind, coaching addresses a specific skill generally, while mentoring addresses literally the 360-degree of mentee. It may not be just professional and so on. So I think it is important to understand that. Now, let me address one more thing here. Why have I called the book Achieving Meaningful Success?
Yes.
Why not just success, right? So what is the difference? So let me share a couple of anecdotes here with you. Professor Clayton from Harvard wrote a book, How Will You Measure Your Life? He talks about an incident there that he followed one group of MBA students. At their 5th alumni meeting, everyone was doing great, good cars, good spouses, good jobs, lots of money, everything was hunky-dory. At 10th reunion of the same group, actually 30% of the people did not show up. And when he went back and inquired, there were health issues, there were relationship issues, there were some other issues in their life, so they didn't join. Now, here is the scary part, Kevin. At 25th anniversary of the same group, actually 2/3 of the people did not show up. And many had serious health issues, serious relationship issues, and some had even gone to jail. So what happened? These are the smartest people in the world. What happened? And that happens when your priorities become skewed in life. And so I have come up with a concept I call a wheel of goal, not a goal, a wheel of goal that covers your professional goals, your financial goals, your materialistic goals, and so on. They are important, but equally important is health goals, relationship goals, maybe spiritual goals, maybe fun goals, whatever you prefer. It's actually your life, you decide. But the important thing is to balance these. Otherwise, even if you achieve success, and there are multiple studies where they have interviewed entertainers and CEOs, and they have at the end of their life, towards the end of their life, they have said that they have not succeeded, they have failed in their life. So if you do this balance and manage your life through the wheel of goals, you achieve meaningful success, which is very happy towards the end. You feel fulfilled and respectful. So that's why meaningful success, not just success, which largely is dedicated to professional success.
We had a question, which I don't know was answered in the book, and this is one of the joys of getting to speak to the author. In the Wheel of Goals, it struck us that some of those are going to be really subject to change. And so what you might look at and say, look, I've kind of worked under Dr. Mansingh's framework and I've produced it here when you're 23, is suddenly going to look very different when you're 33. And to be honest, probably quite different 2 or 3 times in that period as well.
That's right. That's right.
And one of the themes that we've been pursuing with a couple of authors is vertical development. Meaning that the very well established and known matriculation through age. And so your goals at 23 are not to do a retrospective and to give back to all those who have given to you throughout your career, because your career is 3 years old.
That's right.
At that age.
That's right. That's
Whereas at 63, it's quite common to hear those kinds of goals. What do you make of that, I guess, additional vector for the wheel?
Excellent question, and that is asked all the time. So the goals that you decide are not frozen for your life. They should be aspirational. So you try to do big things. You know, most people have hard time coming up with large aspirational goals, and I have a recipe for that as well, which I have covered in the book. But literally every few years, you will come up with tweaks of your goals or new goals. It's your life. You decide what is important to you in what part of your life. So do accordingly. The important thing, only important message there, Kevin, is that keep the balance in mind. You may become a CEO at 35 and have a heart attack at 40 and gone. Who cares? So keep the balance of these goals. You decide you want to pursue 3 goals, 5 goals, 10 goals, 5-year goals, 10 years goals, 20-year goals. It's really your life. And I have described my own life in chapter 1. And the purpose of that is to walk through the process that I'm talking to you about. So my goal first was not actually to become a venture capitalist at all. My goal was in stages. You know, I come from a very small city, have gone to, I would say, below average Hindi medium schools in India. Probably only one from my school who went and did engineering. Then I got gold medal. So the goal was first become, get a gold medal, graduate at top of my class. Then once that is done, then goal became, I want to do PhD from North America. Once that is done, then my goal was to become #1 in my field in United States. And that is, and it all happened. And I'll give you even more solid example to capture all my thoughts later on. But the goals kept changing. Then after that, I suddenly had to move back to India due to my parents' health. My goal become country head. Then my goal become a VC. So this keeps changing, and it's all right. But don't forget the balance that you need to do. I moved from US to India literally over an evening because my parents needed help. Why I was able to do that? Because it was very clear in my goals that helping parents was very important to me. That relationship was very important to me. And it was very clearly almost at the top, just like my profession was. So when time came, I gave up profession and focused on other priority that had come in my life. So by having 10 goals or 5 goals or 3 goals, I never advise people to give equal amount of time to each one of those goals. Maybe one of the goal takes 80% of your time. That's fine, but give 20% of the time or 30% of the time to other goals that are important to us. If your children are growing, they will never be 3-year-old again. They will never be 5 years old again. You cannot rewind the life sort of button. So that is the purpose of these goals. You decide. And if you read the book, there are many examples given for students to CEOs, how to define your goal. But then why do you define? If you don't define big aspirational goals, you never test your potential.
Right. So there's a danger. I'll take the devil's advocate if you'll allow me. There's a danger with these big audacious goals, which is that they're high risk of being missed, right? So I set out a goal for Sage, and I wanted to be the category leader, and it turns out, well, it ends up in the middle of the bell curve, because that's where, guess what, almost all the businesses end up. So what do you make of that? Because surely there's a great sugar rush that's positive when you set a goal and then you nail it, and then you set another one and you nail it. You were personally just listing, I think, with well-deserved honors, the things that you achieved. So the audacious goals are dangerous, aren't they?
They are not. And let me tell you why. First of all, even if you have set an audacious goal and you don't achieve that, you would have still achieved much more than you would have achieved without having any goal. So you may not reach 10, but if you reached 8, that itself is an achievement compared to what you would have achieved without setting the goal. Maybe you were at 3 or 4. So first, don't be afraid of that. Number 2, don't be afraid of failure. I have also described in the book how many times I have failed in my life, right? So so I always tell people, failure is not opposite of success. Failure is part of success. So don't be afraid of failure. You will fail. You are humans. And frankly, that is when you are testing your potential. Third, more important point, Kevin, like you rightly said, a lot of business or the leadership people or the leaders, reach a certain level, and then it's hard to go from there, especially the last 20%, last 30% is always hard. That is why you need a mentor. This is where you are doing all the right things that come to your mind. But what about 3 things or 5 things that you don't know that you should focus? And that is the role of a mentor. Now, let me move to the second half of the sentence that I use. So first I said, define who you aspire to be. And I have given many examples of people who have had big aspirations. Some have succeeded, some have failed. That's life. But they have reached farther than they would have without setting goals. Now, let me come to the second part of the message, which is then become that person. Now, how do you realize your potential? How do you become the best version of yourself? And book is written for anyone, lawyers or doctors or engineers or carpenters or literally anyone. So how can I come up with a framework that is relevant to everyone? And here is that framework. So if you have set aspirational goals and you truly want to achieve them, passion comes first. A goal should be something that creates a lot of passion. There is a chapter in the book on passion, and there is a science behind passion. All the successful people I have worked with or have met, they are very passionate about what they want to do. And passion does magic. If time permits, I'll come back and explain. So passion is very important. Now, 3 more pillars to them. One is innovation or thinking out of the box. Anyone can actually do this. Whether you are an accountant or you are a heart surgeon, you can always think out of the box and improve something that you are doing, right? It's in your control. Nothing is, I don't have an opportunity in my organization. That's BS. You can always, nobody stops you from improving what you do by coming out of the box ideas, right? That's one pillar. And again, I'll come back to that. Second is excellence. World loves excellence. Anyone you know beyond your friends and family is because they have achieved certain level of excellence. Whether they are an entertainer or they are a sportsman or they are a leader, whoever they are, or a doctor or a lawyer, whoever. What is excellence? Continuous improvement and benchmarking you against the best in whatever you choose to do. If you are a heart surgeon, for example, continuously improve, come out with out-of-the-box ideas and benchmark against the best heart surgeon that is available in the world. You can do that. Again, this is in your control. The third is leadership skills. And that again is in your control. Everyone, and I don't mean leaders by managers. I'm saying everyone has to first lead themselves. That is the hallmark of leadership. Then what do leaders do? They have generally very large vision. They want to do something big for themselves or for their organizations. They are liked and respected. So they have good, compassionate skill set. So they are liked by their teams and so on. Respected by their teams. They go and learn whatever skill is needed to deliver on their goal, and they execute and deliver. In a very simplistic way, this is what leaders do. And each one of us can also do that. So leadership. So if you do these things, you're passionate about your, so first define your goals, then you become truly passionate about it. Then you use these 3 pillars, innovation or thinking out of the box, excellence and leadership, and you will realize your full potential. In many, many cases, Kevin, with doing this seriously and help of a mentor, you will be actually able to achieve your goals, and not just achieve, you will actually have, you would have extended your goals many times in your life if you follow this. Forget about achieving your first goal. I have seen it again and again. I have mentored hundreds of people, and I can keep giving you examples. Now, allow me just 2 minutes to give an example from my life that actually pulls everything together.
Yes, please.
Okay, this is what people will see, and I'm telling every sentence is a truth and from my life. When I got my first job, Kevin, in California with Hewlett Packard, I was 30 years old. I had finished my PhD. I was married. My wife was a homemaker. I had a small, few months old baby. 30 years old. I gave myself a goal that at the age 40, I want to become financially independent so that I can do whatever I want with the rest of my life.
Yes.
All right. I wrote it down. Writing is very important. Writing of goals is very important. Otherwise, you are not committed to them. You're just fooling around. So write it down. I wrote it down with the matrix of what will financial independence mean to me, because you could become a billionaire and still not be financially independent. So I wrote my matrix. Now, did I have a clue what to do? Actually, no. It was a big aspirational goals. Now, look at my situation. I didn't have green card. I didn't have any money, so I couldn't do startup of my own. I was working full-time in HP, single earner in the family, so couldn't leave the job. What could I do? But this is the power of setting aspirational goals. After thinking, I said, what if I invent something that is not related to my job and license it to some company and earn royalty from it and then become financially independent?
Mm-hmm.
Now there is a path which was not there a few months before.
Yeah.
Then I spent a lot of time at Stanford Library and so on. And to cut the story short, within a year, I invented an instrument which I licensed to a Boston company called Cambridge AccuSense and became financially independent.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what do you see here? So aspirational goal was set without any clue of how I'll achieve it.
Yeah.
A path became clear to me, which I hadn't thought of it before. I had a mentor who helped me through this process. Now, while we do that, I was so passionate about this goal, Kevin, that many times at night, I'll get ideas about my instrument that I wanted to invent, and I wouldn't go to sleep because I was fearful that I'll forget the idea next morning. So my wife told me to keep a pencil and a pad next to the bed, and she said, write it down so you go to sleep and next morning you can work on that. That is the level of passion one needs. Then what I used to reach my goal, I worked on excellence, innovation, and leadership. All of these things helped me achieve the goal. You can go and search it on the net. The instruments picture is there, but I achieved that goal. This is the power of all the things that I'm talking about. And this is a real life example. And it doesn't, you can say, okay, one time it may have worked. What about second time? Well, second time I said, I want to be #1 in my field in United States.
Yeah.
That's how do you get, I mean, this is a very difficult goal, like you said earlier. But what did I do? I cannot describe all, it is all in the book, but I said, who is #1 right now? And it was a professor from University of Massachusetts, Avram Bar Cohen. And I said, okay, here is the guy who is where I want to be. So I have to learn everything that he has. So I reached there as well. So I made him my inspiration. He was my inspiration at that time. I read everything about him. I tried to learn what he did, what worked for him, what didn't work for him. So he became my inspiration. After I read all these things and so on, he became my role model. Same person. And I said, I want to be like this person. Then I did a bunch of things. And then I talked to him. I met him, I talked to him, and he became my mentor.
Wow.
Right. So he's not coming down. Actually, I am rising.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And then I became a colleague because I also was presenting in the same conferences. I was also writing the books. I was also presenting papers in conferences, and we were colleagues in many cases. And I reached that #1 spot. That's how I got a chance to work with Apple and Steve Jobs.
Yeah.
Right. So I can keep giving you examples. So these are real examples, and it helps you achieve that. What you need is these things. Become best version of yourself and have a mentor who can guide you.
Well, there is one thing that you touched on, and I want to dig into it, which is between a mentor and a mentee, if you'll allow that noun. there's an asymmetry, right? That's part that it's built in, it's on purpose. That's the goodness of it. But it's not a peer-to-peer relationship by definition. And I guess my question for you is if you have dug into, and if you can just share more about what's in it. Like, I think it's kind of obvious what's in it for the junior fellow in your story, right? What's in it
Yes.
is that you're looking at the top of that mountain, you're seeing the city on the hill and going, you know, that's the shining light, that's what things should be like, that's what I'm trying to manifest. So it's pretty clear what's in it for you. Why, in your experience, do mentors do what maybe like Machiavelli would think that there's no motivation, there's nothing in there for them, and yet you see it all over the world?
So there is a lot in it for mentor as well. First, let me tell you that. But 2-3 points here. I think it is clear what is in for mentee, right? Mentee needs to find a mentor, ideally, who has been there, done that. This is very important, actually. You can have multiple mentors for multiple help that you need, but find a mentor who has been there, done that, so that they can guide you with a tremendous confidence. Now, for mentor, what is in there? Number one, you have succeeded not just by yourself. A lot of people have helped you as well. So time to give back and help some other people. It is extremely satisfying, Kevin. If I could impact 1 million people, see, that is another goal, by the way, which I have no clue how I'll reach, but I will figure it out and I'll reach there. So if I can impact 1 million people, it will be probably the most satisfying achievement of my life. Yeah. So giving back, lot of satisfaction. But one part most people forget, you actually learn a lot through mentoring. As a mentor, you also learn. You are generally talking to people of the next generation or with different mindset. They are equally intelligent. They also want to succeed like you. So it's not a one-way learning experience. It's actually a two-way learning experience. So I mentor both my sons, and they are obviously from different generation. I learned so many things. How do they think? What inspires them, and so on. So many things we need. So if you're a leader or a CEO of a company, let us say, and you pick up and mentor a young engineer from your team, you will actually learn how your consumers are thinking. That is your consumer. So it's a two-level learning experience. You, I'm sure, have heard of reverse mentoring, which is actually the younger guy mentor the more senior guy. That happens automatically when you are mentoring someone else. Yes. Right. So I think number one, you will learn through a lot. Two, you will make impact to somebody, which is very, very satisfying and a great way to give back.
I think there's another thing that I have seen. I have a couple of mentors, and they have just been so good to me, but I can see it in their eyes. I can almost see it in your eyes, by the way, as you're discussing this with me. You get to live the victories twice. So, and I don't mean in a lame, like high school guy still wearing his jacket at, high school jacket at the age of 40, but rather you get to retraverse those paths that were the great moments of victory, or maybe traverse the paths that were the great moments of defeat. But you get to have a second pass, or maybe a third or fourth, fifth pass, while very somebody else gets to see it for the first time.
Yes, very well said. And the impact you make to them is just so phenomenal. It is so satisfying. So actually, if you see, if you go to Amazon, where my book is listed, you will see 70 odd reviews by there. It's a 5-star rating, by the way. And many of them actually are the people who I have interacted or I have mentored, and see how they feel. And it's just so satisfying. By the way, in the book also, one of the chapters, so there are 2 chapters I want to talk to you about. One is where I have interviewed 11 people who have inspired me. These are inspiration, and I'll describe later on what inspiration, what is the difference between somebody who inspires you versus somebody who is a role model and somebody who is a mentor. These 11 people are who's who of India and abroad. John Chambers is also there. Ratan Tata, most people will know. Narayan Murthy, many people will know. One of the best doctors of India. Men, women, young, old, everyone is there. 11 people. And interesting thing is, these are not generic interviews, Kevin. These are interviews about the content in the book, and they are underlining what I'm saying. They are saying this works, guys. So it's authentication from that level of success that this works. Now, the other part I'll come, which addresses your previous question. There's another chapter where I have interviewed have these mentees of mine, about 20 mentees of mine, have shared how these mentoring techniques that I have talked in the book about have helped them. These are students, these are people in India, these are people abroad, men, women, young, old, professional, non-professional, everyone is there, CEOs to students. And they all have captured in, obviously, in 1 or 2 paragraphs, how mentoring has helped them. Now, that to me is huge satisfaction. And they're not 20 people. 20 people I've chosen for the book, but there are literally hundreds, if not thousands, who I have impacted. It is probably one of the most satisfying achievements of my life. So I will encourage, and I say this all the time to people, make a goal to mentor 100 people in your life. And do first 5 and then 10, and then see how excited you will be to mentor the next 90.
Yeah. Yeah. Our business, Sage, has the task of building academies for companies that want them. And so we're sort of faithful servants to them in that they will have ideas about how they should shape up and look and so forth.
Right.
Inside an organization, you already have all kinds of interesting asymmetries, from just who's been at the company the longest to who's just naturally very gifted, and then you get certain asymmetries even across division, right? So in a business unit, you've got the data genius who might be both younger and at the firm less time than the fellow who's on like business development, and so you get all these permutations and combinations where you can get teaching and learning. And one of the things I wanted to ask you about, because it's different, it isn't pure education. There's some lovely chemistry. It's a human thing. It's I don't know, maybe it's literally chemical that happens in this other word you're talking about of mentoring. There's a care, and it's not cerebral purely. There's an emotive kind of care. What do you make of that? I mean, it's not even a question that I formed nicely for you, Dr. Mansingh, but
no, but it's
what I'm reaching
wonderful
to
question.
is it isn't a pure Cartesian exchange of information.
No, it is not. It is not. You are right. And so there has to be chemistry match. Mentee has to have respect for that mentor.
Right.
And the respect comes from multiple things. There's multiple things that make you respect a person. It could be chemistry is very important part of it. Is the person has achieved something that you are proud of? Is this person connect you in different ways? He has compassion, he has experience, and so on. So there is chemistry plays a very, very important role, because the mentor's job is not to cheer you up only.
Right.
Mentor's job is also to tell you what you don't want to hear. Right? Now, if you don't respect the person, you will just discard it. Oh, this guy doesn't know what she is talking about, right? But if you respect the person and the person says, hey, you need to improve your communication skills. You are not doing well as far as I can see on communication, or some other skills. What have you done in the last 6 months that proves that you are thinking out of the box? Now, that's a tough question. And the person may give an example and the mentor say, no, this is BS. I need to see more sort of better results. So I think mentor's job is to tell you in some cases what you may not want to hear. And that is why respect for mentor is important, and chemistry is a very important part of it. But chemistry will be built over time. I feel if you try to select this is not a marriage where you are trying to select a perfect partner for you. Yeah, you take up 1%, two persons, and so on. And in 80% of the cases, the chemistry will work out well when the mentee knows you well and he or she sees sincerity in you to help them. They will develop that respect. And in many, many cases, I have seen that relationship evolves with time. Tremendous respect is developed both ways. The only suggestion I have for mentors on how or when not to take a mentee is when, number one, they are not serious about it. You don't have, just time to waste. So they have to be serious. Number two, I ask them to tell me what have they done in life to improve or achieve their goals before they have reached. And that's actually where my book helps. It can help you take the first 5 or 7 steps. And then when you go and approach your mentor and say, look, this is what I have done. These 5 things I have done. This is how much I have reached. That shows seriousness of the mentee. And I love that. So that is also I ask mentor to do. Ask them to write a statement that you will work on, but what is their current aspiration and why do they think they will achieve or not achieve that aspiration? And I think that is, once you start that process and follow the process described in the book, you will, 9 out of 10 times, you will see that the respect is developed and the relationship and the chemistry works. 1 out of 10, always there's people who may not go along the way.
Yeah. There's something, there's something in the humility that it takes to run your big, clever dream for your life and your own goals and everything else past someone else who may actually poke a hole in them. I think there's something very healthy, but also a bit risky about that for the mentee. You go, I've thought this all through. It is my life, not this old lady's life or this old man's life. It's mine. And so I've got my beautiful dream. And yet you can kind of show it to them for a moment and say, well, what do you make of this? And it's there's some vulnerability and risk in that if they're honest, as you were just saying, they may take a look at your clever plan and say, it's built on sand, or it's not well configured.
So I'll tell you, so that is what happens when a mentor does not know how to mentor actually. See, I also don't know who will achieve what dreams. That guy could be tomorrow's CEO in S&P 500 company. I cannot judge that. So don't puncture the aspirations. Go on the second half of the sentence and say, what does it take to achieve what you are planning to, aspiring for, right? And go and work on those 4 pillars that I talked to you about. How passionate are you about achieving this? I'll tell you an example. A girl came to me several years back and she wanted to be a golf player. I don't know golf. I mean, I know golf. I'm a just casual player, but she said, I want to be one of the best Indian golfers. And I asked multiple questions, went through the same process. But one question I asked, how passionate are you about this? And she was in high school, young girl. She said, I can stand on one feet for 24 hours and I can go without eating for 3 days or whatever, but showed how passionate she was about achieving these goals, right? So if you have those elements, and then you can say, what does it take to become what you are aspiring for? So you don't say you will never be CEO of a S&P 500 company. You say, this is what will take you to get there. Are you ready for it? So let me give you another example from my life. It is also in the book. When I joined Dell R&D, and in my first interview with my leadership team, one guy, I asked, what do you want to be 5 years from now? That is my general question to all my leaders. And he said, I want your job in 5 years. And I said, wonderful. Are you willing to work with me on that? It will be a lot of hard work. He said, yes. And to cut the story short, 5 years later, when I left Dell, he took over my role. He became the person who deserved that position. So I guided him. All the basic skills, intention, passion was already there. I just made sure he developed some skills that were needed to do my role, and he inherited my role. See, anything you want in life, there is somebody who is doing that role.
Yeah.
I gave you example of Professor Bart Cohen. He was #1 in my field at that time. And, so I had to just learn that much. Once I learned that much, I will become like him or her, right? So I think this is important. So to long answer, but important point, a mentor's job is not to say to a mentee that you will never be able to do this. A mentor's job is to say, oh, this is aspirational. It will take a lot of hard work to get there. I can show you the path. And if the mentor cannot show the path, you find another mentor for this person who can show the path. And then it is up to mentee to work their tails off and become. And many people have surprised me. Let me tell you that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So did I address your question?
You did. You did. I think there's just now and again, people, especially professionals who can be caught in a myopic moment, will set out destinations and goals for themselves, which aren't wise. That happens. I've done that. I don't know if you have, but I've certainly seen others who have. And so maybe the remaining question is, what do you do about someone what does a mentor do, a caring mentor do when somebody set out a goal that in the long term isn't good for them?
Yeah, I think it's a conversation. It's a discussion.
Yes.
And you will share your thoughts, and you will also tell the mentee that, look, I'm not always right. I have been wrong many times. However, these are the things, pitfalls and things like that I see. I will also tell that person to go and identify the person who he wants to be or she wants to be, a role model. Does he or she has what it takes to become that person?
Right.
Role model is the destination. You are, by figuring out the role model, you are setting the destination. And so have the conversation. I always tell mentors that every alternate meeting of yours should not be about mentoring. It should be about sports. It should be about travel. It should be, so it doesn't become like a transactional relationship. It becomes a very respectful, good chemistry kind of relationship. That is important. So I think that is how you should do that. Most people will listen. Sometimes they may be right. So you have to be also open to that. For example, when I approached Avram Bar Cohen and I said, you are my role model, he didn't tell me that, hey, Vivek, look, you can't be there. It is very difficult, da, 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 da. He said, Vivek, you have to do these 4 things to get to where I am. And I was willing to do that. And that is the important part. So I think that is where we need to go. My suggestion once again for everyone is to follow the book. They will be able to take 5 steps, 7 steps themselves. Yes. And they themselves will be able to make a lot of wonderful decisions about their life, how they want to live their life, and then seek a mentor. Now, let me go to the starting point. I know only a few minutes are left. We talked about people who inspire you, people who are your role models, people who are your mentors, and books and podcasts, etc. So people who inspire you. Many people, I ask them, young people and senior people, who inspires you? And they randomly pick a name, but they haven't thought through. So who should be your inspiration? Someone who has respect from you, who you like or you respect. Now, when you are inspired by someone, you may not be able to reach that person, but at least you can read their book, you can read their blogs, you can get in contact with him or her somehow, and pick 1 or 2 skills why you respect that person, and then make it part of your life. That is true inspiration, what it means. So that is inspirers. I have described it very well, who inspires, who could be your inspirer, and so on. And I have covered my own inspirers, 11 of them. The second is role model. This is probably the best way to sort of fix your aspirational goal. You know, who do you want to be like? You can always change that after 5 years, after 10 years, after 2 years. But as a beginning point, where do you want to end up? And then find a person who is your role model. And again, read their books, blogs, whatever they are doing, what skills they have, and try to learn from them. But you have set the destination. You know, I tell young people, Kevin, that today you want to drive 15 minutes from your home to pick up something on a car or a scooter. You open Google Map first, and Google Map asks what? Destination. So for 15 minutes, you have destination, but for life, you don't have any destination.
Yeah.
How is that going to work, right? So role model is your destination. It can change 5 years, 10 years down the road, but I think it gives you a starting point. The third is a mentor. As I said, mentors are invaluable. There can be more than one mentors. And generally, a mentor is someone who has been there, done that, the path that you want to take. And fourth is books, podcasts, etc., because we all have to learn, and more learn. So these are the 4 gods that are there to help you. Take their help, and then off you go. You will surprise yourself how far you can go by doing some of the techniques that I have described.
We could keep you for 3-4 hours more on top of this, because you just opened many delightful doors that we feel like walking through. But what a great place, I think, to leave it with the 4 gods. Thanks for the effort you took in compiling the thoughts that are in the book. We'll share and promote it liberally, but also thanks for the additional editorial and thoughts that kind of bring it to life here. There's a handful of topics here that I think are very relevant to what people are trying to figure out in the workplace. So I think what I can reflect back to you on the behalf of the kinds of clients that we serve is they're constantly trying to find the line of wisdom, or the lines of wisdom in things like how do people with experience share it with those without? How do people who can teach do so effectively? How do people who want to learn do so effectively? And the workplace is just this amazing, interesting venue where so much of this is already happening. Like, of course, it happens at home and in the golf club and at church and so forth. But the workplace just is a lot of people's life, and a lot of where meaning is being developed and exchanged. And your work here, I think, is a real light there. So.
Well, thank you for having me. You are helping me reach my goal, which is to impact 1 million people through the book and my thoughts. So thank you for that. Since you said there are a lot of experienced people who are your audience and people you work with, I just want to leave with one quotation of mine, which is in the book, that future should not be decided by extrapolation of your past. Future should not be decided by extrapolation of your past. That is what a lot of people do, by the way. It should be decided by aspirations of the future. So when you think about your aspirational goals, don't try to extend your past into that. Think freely and see what you can or you would like to do. And just last 10 seconds, if you have hard time coming up with your aspirational goals, I ask people, think that God is right in front of you and says, ask. Now there's no constraint. Ask, what would you ask? Start practicing that and you will figure it out, and then go on and achieving it and achieve meaningful success. God bless you all.
Lovely. Thank you.